Cast. Andy?
Monica, thank you. Back to the land of enchantment. The city of Las Cruces and surrounding areas have rich history, but there are parts of history that certain groups have been trying to forget for generations. That includes a painful chapter dating back to the Civil War that still doesn't have a resolution. KTSM 9 News anchor Trevor Thompson brings us tonight's special report.
Over the past few years, there has been a concerted effort to rename places that honored Confederate leaders. Here in the borderland, places and objects named for people such as General Robert E. Lee or even Confederate President Jefferson Davis have been renamed or removed entirely. But there's one Confederate leader whose name can still be found around Las Cruces. It's a peaceful Friday in the town of Mesilla. But here, 161 years ago, violence ruled during the Civil War. The Confederacy, led by Lieutenant Colonel John Robert Baylor, won a victory nearby, capturing hundreds of Union soldiers after they ran low on water trying to escape, according to NMSU history professor Dr. Jamie Bronstein.
The Union troops should have gone north, and instead they went east, and I'm not quite sure why. Baylor's troops really didn't even have to do anything. They just had to, get up in front of the Union troops and allow them to surrender.
In the quaint and peaceful plaza of Old Town Mesilla, there lies a marker that commemorates Baylor's activities early on in the Civil War. It is very small and not always easy to find unless you know exactly where to look. This marker, which praises Baylor's, quote, dashing actions, was put up in 1964 by a group called the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
And you might not think that New Mexico would have like a substantial presence of Confederate supporters into the 20th century, but actually they did.
But there are some other reminders of Baylor's legacy in the region that are much, much larger. In fact, they're just about as big as anything around. Today, cars whiz in and out of the parking lot of the Baylor Canyon Pass hiking trail, which is on Baylor Canyon Road, which sits under Baylor Peak, a spot sacred to many Native Americans, including Diego Medina, who represents the Piro Manso Tiwa tribe.
And it's unfortunate, but it's not going to be like this forever, right?
Now, not only was Baylor a Confederate leader, but he held a deep hatred for Native Americans virtually his entire life.
I don't think most people are familiar with Baylor and the worst parts of his career. He also served as an editor on a newspaper called The White Man, where he just basically reported about Indian attacks and had bad things to say about Native Americans.
Baylor even wrote a letter to another commander urging him to create a fake peace gathering in the hopes of luring in Apaches to, quote, kill all of the grown Indians.
He was a bad person, and he'll be recorded in history as such, but our landscape doesn't have to, and our landscape was not born to be named after him.
But the fight to remove Baylor's name from this land has been a rocky climb.
I think overall in Las Cruces, there's a real lack of historical awareness.
But changing names is nothing new in the borderland, especially when it comes to Confederate leaders. The Southern Poverty Law Center tracks such places. In fact, in recent years in El Paso, Robert E. Lee Road has been renamed. So too was Robert E. Lee Elementary School. And just west of Las Cruces, multiple markers declaring I-10 as Jefferson Davis Highway have also been removed. The one name that remains is Baylor.
Yeah, certainly I had no idea that was a part of this history, right? And, you learn it in bits and pieces here and there.
Patrick Nolan is the executive director of an advocacy group called Friends of the Organ Mountains and a proponent of removing Baylor's name. So you're optimistic about the chances that this can get done in the near future, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. I am very optimistic. I think it's a no-brainer. I think we'll take care of it. These things take time, though, right?
And there is reason for his optimism. The Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, is from New Mexico and is the first Native American to ever hold that position. She issued Secretarial Order 3405 to order reviews and possible changes to derogatory geographical and federal land unit names. That's handled by something called the Board on Geographic Names, but there are hundreds of places across the nation to review, and so far Baylor's name remains as the process plays out.
I would put that at 2 to 3 years, probably, right? It's got to go through the process, and that process takes long.
But one day, Medina hopes this land and this peak will have a new name, something to honor the thousands of years of history that existed well before the American Civil War.
You know, what we're looking at behind us is Waivonae, which is like the place where the sun rises.
He's hoping to honor the rising sun while watching the sun set on a dark chapter in the history of New Mexico. As I mentioned, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, that marker in Old Town Mesilla was put up by a group called the Sons of Confederate Veterans. They do still exist today. Their website says the group neither embraces nor espouses acts or ideologies of racial and religious bigotry. We did try reaching out to their national organization for comment, but did not hear back in time for this story. In studio, I'm Trevor Thompson, KTSM 9 News.